Thank you, man. I appreciate the intro. I'm definitely going to be living through your dad and the other people in Thailand. It's a great thing to have a child, but maybe next time we'll plan it around the trip. Anyway, yeah, super excited to be here. Hopefully, what I go over today is helpful to you and helpful to your new agents that are getting started. And I love seeing the numbers too. I love how you guys do that. Just kind of keeps everything right in view. And I love how you call him Burge Man. That is awesome. But we'll save that for another time.
Got that
So
right from Steven.
when I was talking to Steven last week, he asked me to do the team call, and one of the things he was talking about, he was like, "I want you to talk about what it looks like to be a winner." And I started thinking through that, and really, what I came to the conclusion of is looking like a winner. Like winners don't. There's not a specific personality type. It's not a luck thing, and really, it's not talent. What I boiled it down to, and what I want to talk about today is more so traits that winners have, and the habits, the standards, the mindset that they have, and how they repeat that over and over again. And so I want to talk through, I think I got five different traits that I think that winners have. And I want to kind of talk through some of those and give you and really give you examples of agents that I may have coached, or let's just say for this call, that I've made up. And when they're successful, what those traits look like, and when they're not successful, what those traits look like. And there's so many things within talking about the traits of a winner that you see people, some people will do these for an extended period of time, and then they stop doing those things. And you start to see every graph that you look at kind of is a downward trajectory. And I don't think that I think before everybody, like you can think about Andy Albright, Stephen Davies, like before the money, before the recognition, before they had results, there's certainly traits that they showed throughout the whole time. And I'll talk about this in some of those, but some of them you don't see. And that can be, you look at Instagram and stuff like that, and you have people who are looks like instant success, but what you don't see is the back end of that, right? I think if you watch the new Kevin Hart special, his roast, he talked about, or somebody brought up a quote he always says is, everybody wants to be famous, nobody wants to put in the work. And so I think about that a lot in this business. So I don't have much time, so I'm going to go through these, and you know me, you know I can talk. So I've got notes here to keep me on track. But the first trait that I see in every winner is coachability. And what I think some people see is coachability, or taking advice is somewhat, they perceive it as a weakness almost. But what I've found is the fastest learners, again, aren't the most talented, they're the most coachable. And you can't coach someone who is busy explaining to you why they are right. You know, I look at coaching. I do a coaching call every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for my virtual team, and we go over calls. And you see this, you see it happening. And I've had some feedback on that call, which is we aren't praising enough of what people are doing right. And in my mind, feedback is free training. It's not to tell somebody, hey, you're doing a great job, because ultimately, if they're not doing a great job, you could say I don't care about the person if I'm not giving them direct coaching on what they're doing wrong so that they can fix that. Now, as somebody who is receiving coaching, you can do one of two things. You can look at it as feedback and apply it to your business, or you can deflect it, right? So, what do I mean by this? Is I love this quote I said. It said feedback is free training. And then it went on to talk about if you're deflecting that training, that you're paying full price for a lesson you chose not to receive. I like that when I was studying for this talk, that is one thing that just stuck out to me, because we talk about it, just to give you another light of it, is what does it cost you not to come to the trainings? What does it cost you not to show up in Burlington in July? And if you think about it, what are you paying full price for because you chose not to do that, right? So anyway, and then I do have another quote that I loved. It said, "The best feedback is what we don't want to hear." And that kind of made me think about the feedback that I got on that call. Is I don't want to tell people everything they want to hear. Like, I don't want to be a soundboard for them to tell them they're doing everything right. At the same time, you've got to pick people up. You can't just, I'm not saying beat people over the head. And I'm not saying that's how you should be coached, but I am saying is be open to the feedback. So let's look at this from an agent perspective. So what does it look like to deflect immediately? Let's say that I'm coaching somebody and I'm giving them feedback. This is typically what you'll hear. The leads aren't good. The script just doesn't feel like me talking. Or the worst one, in my opinion, is I did that, or I already did that, right? Especially with some of these virtual calls, you're listening to it. So I'll give you a practical example. I was talking to somebody last week, and the coaching point was, hey, here's what I want you to ask. I want you to ask this simple question. Are you open to a suggestion? Hey, or no, it was, hey, can I give you a recommendation? And this is on a live sales call. And this is what I'm texting the person what to say. Can I give you a suggestion, or can I make a recommendation? Here's what the agent said. If I may make a recommendation, what I would say is, and then they immediately cut him off. See, here's the coaching point with this agent, is his response was, I did that. I said that. Well, think about this for a second. If I say, if I can make a recommendation, and then I go into talking about it, the client on the other end immediately cut them off. If I ask the person a question, which is now giving me permission and also giving me control of the conversation, if I ask the question of, can I make a recommendation, they have to respond yes, and then they have to listen to me. So you see the feedback. So when you hear, like, I've already tried that. Now here's what an agent it has this winning trait of coachability looks like. You give them feedback. By the way, they don't give you any eye rolls. They don't say, I've already done it. They say, got it. They try, they fail, and they adjust. They rewatch training calls to adjust their calls to adjust to do that. They practice it. They practice the script. They send you recordings that they want you to review, right? And this could be on the recruiting front too. We do this on the recruiting front as well. I'm just hitting on sales kind of, so I do want to mention that but they're immediately changing things, and they're changing them, and then they're giving you permission again to give them feedback on what they changed. I always say try, fail, adjust, because I really do think that this business, when you're thinking about being coachable in this business, when you try, when you fail, and you adjust, you're trying, which is a big part of it. And if you're failing, that's part of the game, but are you making the adjustments? And when I say making the adjustments, are you talking to the right person would be a big part of that adjustment. Like, am I talking to the right person to get the feedback I need to keep moving forward? Okay, so trait one is coachability. That's got to be there. I think, again, it's not about talent. It's really just being coachable is just the gap of where you currently are and where you could be. That's really all it boils down to. And I think if you come into this business with an open mind and you are coachable, there's a lot of really good people. I mean, think about Stephen Davies. I've learned a tremendous amount from Stephen Davies. I've been up to when he's doing up in Arden, North Carolina, when he's doing a boot camp, and he'll let me slide into that, I'll be there. It's about a 3.5, 4 hour drive, but I'm going because I'm trying to get an understanding of how he coaches, but I'm also trying to get some of his mindset, right? But if Stephen Davies were to call me up and give me coaching, I would absolutely take that coaching. So this is an open invitation, Davies. If you ever want to call and coach me, you are more than welcome to do so. Because look, I look at Stephen Davies as somebody that's been very successful in this business for a long time, or whoever is training you, right? And so what Davies offers me is experience. So there's a lot of things that, and this is all the coaches out there that have been in this business for years. they have seen things and done things that you're going to run into. So I want to know from their past mistakes what I should do differently. And that's allowing them to coach me. All right. The second thing here is consistency. This one is really, I think, what can make or break somebody. Consistency doesn't care whether you feel like doing something or not, right? The people who are winning in this business, they're not more inspired, they're not less tired, they don't have less going on in their life. They're just more reliable. They know what needs to be done and they do it, whether they feel like it or not. If you guys listen to Jim Rohn at all, like I listen to Jim Rohn a lot of things that he says, and he says success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every single day. And I think this is a big thing that makes a difference in this business. I talk a lot about schedule. If you ever heard me talk on one of my team calls, one of the things I hit on is schedule all the time, because I think in this business, if you don't have a schedule in place, you're not going to be consistent, right? And if you're not consistent, if you don't follow a schedule in this business, you're going to end up getting a schedule from somebody else. You're going to go find a corporate job that is going to dictate what you do, when you do it. They're going to give you consistency. This business breathes on structure, right? You've got to have the infrastructure in place, and consistency's got to be a part of that. So, again, let's take it from like the agent's perspective. What does consistency look like? Agents who are not consistent are very emotionally reactive. So when you look at their week schedule and they're dialing on a Monday, this is what happens to most people. Is on a Monday, that's where they're motivated, right? They're getting after it. And on Tuesday, they wake up discouraged because Monday didn't go as planned. So on Wednesday, they start skipping things, right? They start rethinking everything. Is this business for me by Thursday? And on Friday, the week's over, and they think, okay, well, next week I'll get started again. I'll be motivated again by Monday to get going. And the problem with that is there's no momentum there, right? There's no momentum. So if you look at an agent who is consistent, they're frustrated too, right? They have frustrations throughout the week, but they don't let that stop them. They still show up. They still make the calls. They still get the leads, right? They stay plugged in. They don't miss that Wednesday call. They don't miss Thursday. They don't finish out the week doing nothing. They just stay consistent, and it's not pretty sometimes, you know. And this is where 6 months down the road, if you're getting started next to somebody, it's like, well, they just got lucky. They got the better leads, Stephen gave them more attention, whatever the case may be that they're thinking. It's not that the agent who was consistent got lucky. It's just they stayed consistent, right? So they just never stopped moving towards the direction that they needed to get better. Ties back into the coaching, right? Because they've got to be reaching out for coaching and getting better. But this is how you build momentum in this business, is staying consistent in the business. So, and then I'll finish off with this quote with the consistency point. We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And that's Jim Rohn again. But I do think that in this business, when you look at what people fight the most, it's discipline and structure. And what they need the most in this business is discipline and structure. All right. The third one I have decided was initiative. And this one comes a lot. This one stems a lot from people who are waiting till they're ready. I want to make sure I know the script. I want to make sure I know how to do the in-home presentation. I want to know how. I want to see you make recruiting calls this week before I make one. And what my thought process was behind initiative was waiting to feel ready is just a trap. And to me, it's almost a procrastination technique, right? You're never gonna feel ready in this business. There is still things at this point. Like I feel like I'm pretty good with products, right? Like Andy will pick on me sometimes because I do like to know certain things about products that I didn't know before. but it didn't stop me from moving forward with that. A lot of times you figure out these things on the move. When I'm training a new person and getting them, whether it's out in the field or whether it's on virtual, all I care about is that they start moving. Because when they get to a house or when they get on the phone, we got their back. We know more than they do. And the reality is watching videos on NAA University isn't going to make you ready. It's going to give you a lot of information that you're not going to remember when you're sitting down with a person. I always say to new people, like, we can sit here and we can go over 10,000 different scenarios, but call one, it's going to be a scenario we didn't go over. Why? Because we're dealing with people. And there's a lot of variables when you're dealing with people. But when you're in motion, those things are going to happen and you're going to learn those things on the fly. So what happens is when the people that tend to be NAA university addicts that sit behind the computer all day trying to learn everything, they never get started. I think they get tired of waiting to get started. Like, they get burned out. And it's like they think back on their experience and they're like, well, yeah, I just never learned everything, so I never got going. So now I'm doing XYZ, pick it, right? So, and when you look at it from the agent perspective, I try to do agent A and agent B on all of these. The agent A is the one that says, I just want to learn more first. And then a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, it's still the same thing. They're still waiting to feel ready to know everything. They want to be confident going into their first appointment, but they're not going to build confidence before they do it. Confidence comes after action, not before it. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's like sports. If I wanted to become a great golfer, I'm not gonna be great by watching Tiger Woods on YouTube for a month straight. I've got to go out to the range at some point and hit a golf ball, right? And I'm not gonna feel confident in it until I actually do it, right? Like the whole parenting thing, right? So for me, you don't know what you're getting into. You just don't. I mean, everybody on this call that's a parent knows that. But my thought process was, we'll figure it out. Like, I didn't wait till we read enough books to be like, okay, we're ready to have kids. I was like, everybody before us has figured this out, so we'll figure it out. And it's not that we know everything. Believe me, we don't. We're still figuring out things like the scheduling thing is funny to me because like, he's got a schedule of his own, and he can't communicate that to us. So, but we don't know everything, but we didn't wait to start having kids. We knew we'd figure it out. I mean, it's been 2 months now. So has it been a messy 2 months? Probably. Like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it was definitely a little bit an adjustment. I'll say that, right? Waking up at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in the morning to a screaming baby is definitely what I would consider messy. But in the business, it's the same way for an agent. They don't know everything. Like, the agent that just kind of takes initiative, they don't know everything, but they don't wait to know everything. They get out there, and that's how they build confidence. At first, yeah, it's awkward. When you're making your first recruiting call, it's weird. It's like, did I say the right things? When you're sitting down in your first appointment, it's like, hey, I know I messed that up. I think that they were ready to buy and I messed it up because I started picking on their kids. I don't know, you name it. You do different things, but it is messy at first, but they're in motion. So this agent is doing what I was talking about. They're having action before the confidence comes, and the confidence will follow that. So they're not waiting around to see 10 ride-alongs, or they're getting or know every single product back and forth. I mean, if you call Gina, there's some things I've called Gina on, and I would say in the entire country, I think Gina, and I'm not just talking about our company. I mean, in the country, I think Gina knows more than 99% of people about insurance products. But there's still times where there's a new product that rolls out and Gina doesn't know much about it yet, but she goes and she'll figure it out and she'll help you out. But she doesn't wait. She doesn't wait to know everything to do trainings on those things, right? She figures those out as she's going through it. It's the same thing in this business. So if you're an agent that's sitting here and you're just getting started with this and you're like, I'm guilty of that. Like I do want to know more before I get started. If you'll just trust that the confidence does come after the action and you'll start moving, you'll learn a lot quicker. So if you fall into that category of, hey, I need to spend a little bit more time on the university, and then I'll make my first calls. Stop doing that to yourself. All you're doing is you're delaying your success. That's all there is to it. So if you'll just get started, I promise you, you have the resources behind you to be successful. So go after it. And this is again, initiative is this trait. But I do think initiative is a big part of this as far as getting started. The fourth one I had down is emotional control. I know, Chandler, keep me on track here because I know we said 30 minutes. I got two more to get through. I promise I'll get through them quick.
You're all
All
good, my
right.
friend.
So the fourth one that I had listed down here was emotional control. And this is another one that I think can make or break people. I think the winners in the emotional control, they stay steady. I think I'll call it the losers for the purpose of simplicity. I think they roll through the roller coasters of emotions with this business, and this business can be emotional. But here's what I've seen in a trade of a winner that has emotional control: hard weeks don't break them. It doesn't break them. But somebody that doesn't have this mentality, they allow their mood to control their output. And what I mean by that is every day, every bad day becomes a bad week, and every bad week becomes a bad month, right? So if you can, it's not that the winners don't notice that they had a bad day, they just don't let it stop them from moving forward, right? So if you think about an agent, again, this kind of goes back to the consistency a little bit here too. So not to be repetitive, but agent A is the agent that doesn't have emotional control. And what they do is when they go through tough times, they allow those bad days to become bad weeks. And those bad weeks ultimately become a bad month. The winning trait of an agent, they don't let that bad day become a bad week. They let that bad day, they leave it in the past, they move forward the next day. And so agent A, the one that does not have emotional control, will start spiraling. And they'll think, maybe this business doesn't work and maybe I'm not good at this. And what they'll do is they'll stop all activity. They'll stop calling, they'll stop showing up to appointments, they'll stop their recruiting calls. And then they notice that their income will drop because in this business you can't make money unless you're selling insurance or you have people out there selling insurance. So their income's ultimately going to drop. And then they run into anxiety issues. They're like, "Oh my God, like I have bills to pay, I have this to do." And the emotions start to create more problems for them. And what most cases, what the agent does in this position is they isolate. And isolation is a very dangerous place to be in this business. When you're going through a bad day, you need someone to reach out and talk to get you back on track. So here's what I recommend you don't do: is I recommend you do not I do not recommend you reach out to an agent who has similar traits as you. Like, for example, if you have someone on the team that you call when you're having a bad day and they tell you how bad their day is going, I wouldn't call that person. I would call somebody who's a little bit more positive, somebody like a Stephen Davies. Let them know what you're going through. Let them get you back on track. Let them get your mindset right to keep pushing forward for that week. Don't isolate though. Do not crawl into a corner and be by yourself. I'm telling you, like I think that's one of the worst places to be when you're in a negative mindset, is to be the only one in your mind. And the things that you're telling yourself over and over again, like this business doesn't work, like I'm not good at this, that's not good. And what you think will actually become what you believe. So do not isolate yourself. Now, agent B, this is again kind of the winning mindset. They're frustrated as well. Like I was saying earlier, like it's not like they're not going through the same things as you, but they really don't let it bother them. What they start to think about is how can I fix what's going on? How can I tighten up my processes? Who can I reach out to? that can maybe help me with this. Again, go back to the try, fail, adjust. I'm failing. I need adjustments. Who can I reach out to? Who can I stay visible to that'll give me that help? And they keep on, but these people keep going. They don't like. I had bad days recruiting too. I don't know. I could count up how many recruiting calls I had last week. Probably the most excited person, the person I was most excited about. I'm actually going to their city in a couple weeks, and I was really excited because I was like, sweet, I got somebody to work with. I've been ghosted. I've been ghosted. I had another person tell me last week that they're choosing another agency, but that doesn't like if that really stopped me in my tracks, I would stop recruiting. And that who knows who it's going to lead me to this week if I keep recruiting. It's the same thing with sales. Like I always, when I was out in the field, believe me, there was days where the day was not going right, and it was like it's like it's a freaky thing that this would always happen. But there would be a day, and let's say I had an appointment or two left on the day, and there would be this major temptation. Just go home. Go home. It's a bad day. Nobody's going to buy insurance from you. You suck at this, Brandon. Go home. Just go home. And luckily, I had Vinny, if you guys know Vincenzo Napoli, he was in my corner. So a lot of times we talked, and Vinny's a very upbeat, motivated person. Like, no, just go to the next one, go to the next one. And I would always call Vinny, and Vinny's my downline, by the way. So this was interesting, but we just were trying to figure things out. But Vinny would be like, "No, man, go. You don't know. It could be your cell." And almost every time that we'd have that conversation, and I ended up going to the last appointment, I would always get a sale that day, and it would make me feel so much better. But it was just think back on the consistency and having the emotional control. And again, at some points, if I was spiraling, I knew who to call. If I called Andy Albright, he would just laugh at me. And to be honest, like he wasn't laughing because he didn't care what I was going through. He was laughing because he knew how small of a problem it was. And you hear him talk about all the time, the P analogy with problems. So he would talk me through stuff like that, and I would just go to the next appointment. And what you realize about your emotional control is, okay, let me back. So your income in this business, whether it's on the sales side or whether it's on the recruiting side, is a direct reflection of your emotional stability. Because I promise you, there's things in Stephen Davies's business that have happened that I've talked with him about years ago that I just can't imagine that happening. But just to see, like, you realize how emotionally stable somebody like a Stephen Davies is, and really all winners are. That he just bounced back. He didn't think of like, oh, poor me, let me quit, let me go find something else to do. He got back after it. He stayed steady, and he wasn't reactive. He just reset, right? And so like the best analogy I can think of with this is, and I don't know, and this may not resonate with you if you haven't seen the video, but I'm sure some of you guys have seen the video out there on Instagram or something like that, where the guy is it's a guy that's standing on there's stairs that are going up like this, and he's standing on the bottom, and he's bouncing back onto a trampoline, and it's shooting him back up, and he keeps climbing up, and then he falls back one time, and he goes back almost to the beginning, and he keeps doing it, and he finally gets all the way to the top. And so when you think about this business a lot, there's going to be things that happen that are out of your control, but you can't let that break you. You can't have your moods control your output, right? So you've got to be emotionally, your emotional IQ, I guess, is what they really call it, not emotional control, but you guys get what I'm saying. You've got to stay steady in this business, no matter if it's good or bad. Just stay even with it and keep trucking. All right, last one, ownership. Ownership is the last trait. So in this business, what I found is whether it's leads, whether it's your mentor, whatever it is, and you can find that, like, this is what I'm looking for this on recruiting calls when I'm talking to somebody. Specifically, if they're a licensed agent, I want to know what their ownership trait looks like. And what I mean by that is, who do they put the blame on? Do they always hand the responsibility or the blame off to someone else? or do they take control of the results that they have in their ownership? Does that make sense? So when you take ownership of something, it allows you as the person to figure out whether that's something that you can control. And most of the time it is something that you can control, right? If it's not something you can control, you really shouldn't be worried about it. There's a book for that. It's called Inside the Circle. But the things that you can control as far as your results go, you've got to take ownership of. So if whether it's, again, these are just excuses that you hear all the time. It's the leads. It's my mentor is not doing this. My upline, blah blah blah. They're always putting the blame. And in interviews, this is just iconic when it comes to the license list. They're always I'm just asking them questions of like, how are your results? What do you think held you back from reaching your goals? And almost all of them start blaming something else, right? So that could be like, let's go down to the list here. Agent A versus Agent B. Agent A, the one that always is blaming things, not taking ownership. They blame the leads. They blame the economy. They blame their mentors, their uplines. They blame the carriers. They blame chargebacks, right? Every conversation they have starts with yeah, but chargebacks. Yeah, we couldn't control chargebacks because the leads were so bad. These people didn't even know what they were signing up for. And then if we sold them, they charged back. Or, my upline, he didn't answer my call on Tuesday at 9 p.m. So yeah, I stopped making calls. They're always looking to blame someone else, and it's never their fault. Now, the winning trait of ownership looks like the agent takes full ownership of what is going wrong in their business. They look inward first. And they look at things like, am I working hard enough? Am I following the system? Am I following what people are telling me? Am I being coachable? Am I being consistent? Right? And when you take ownership of your business, you realize that it's like you can improve the situation. And if you're always looking to blame somebody else, you can't improve that situation. So I put down here, I'll say this, you can have excuses or you can have growth, right? So it's the same situation feeds both. You pick the one that gets the energy. So if you've ever heard the two wolves, it's whichever one you feed, right? This is what it looks like, in my opinion, to win. So anyway, I'll close out with saying this. I saw another Jim Rohn. Success is the natural consequence of consistency applying the basic fundamentals. And I think one thing that you got to understand about winning is, at first, I think I mentioned this earlier, it seems like it's almost invisible. The habits that you're building, reading 15 times or 15 minutes a day, the reps that you're putting in, the consistency, it's not impressive while it's happening. But as it's happening, it's compounding. These things are compounding. And one day you look back and you're like, holy mackerel, I can't believe what I've accomplished in this 6-month time frame where I was at 6 months ago. And then other people around you be looking at you being like, oh, he's an overnight success, right? I've been in this business 7 years, and I've had great movement up. I've had setbacks, but one thing that I've always been told by Andy, it really doesn't even seem like it's much of a choice when it comes to talking with Andy, but it's just remaining consistent. It doesn't matter. It will compound. You think about our relentless 52 chat. Like, yeah, if you went out and talked to 10 people last week and none of them got started, that's okay, right? But if you do that for 52 weeks consistently, you'll find someone that gets started and is your success overnight, if you will. So anyway, I hope this is kind of what Davies was hoping I'd hit on, but I really did put some thought into this of like what it does look like to be a winner. And I think it really comes back to your traits. It's not the guys that are winning or the girls that are winning in this business are just more talented than you. It really just comes back to they're more consistent than you. They have a lot more of the winning traits. And these are things that you can pick up too, by the way. So if you're not winning in this business at the current moment, what can you apply that you've learned today in your business moving forward? And what can you look at yourself and take ownership of and say, you know what? Like, I have been blamed, and it's okay. People blame stuff. I have been blaming this or I have been blaming that, but here's how I'm going to move forward, and here's how I'm going to fix that. And just watch how slowly but surely your mindset and your whole business starts moving the direction that you wanted it to move. So that's all I have for today. I don't know if there's any questions, Chandler. I can't see. I don't see anything, but
Yeah, I didn't see any questions come through. No, honestly, that was perfect, man. I mean, I was taking notes because I'm gonna type it all out so I can send it out to the team on Discord for those who are in appointments and can hop on. But no, honestly, that was all perfect, and I appreciate those 4 points and just making it simple, and you're absolutely right. It is just traits. It's not some magic potion we're all taking, and that's what all the leaders have locked up in their cabinets. It's traits that they've worked on for years, and then that's what's got them to where they're at, and that's what it takes for new people, and then
yeah,
that's great. And I was sharing that we had an agent write their first policy during the call, so I had to pop up for a
nice.
second, but I'm sharing this call with them too. I'm just like, cool, you got your first one. Now let's build on
Yeah,
it, right? Here's the call to
consistency.
watch. So,
If you can do one, you can do 1,000.
yep,
You
it's
know?
yeah, that's what we tell them. So, no,
All right.
honestly, Brandon, thank you so much, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate your time. Really, really do. Thank
absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you guys. Hope this helped. See y'all.
See ya. Awesome. Everyone, have a great rest of your week. Let's get things rocking and rolling.